All right.
All right, I think we're ready.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Palmer. Good evening, everyone. We are going to go ahead and get started with our whole board training. We'll call the meeting to order, at 6:03 p.m. Dr. Thomas, if you would conduct roll call for us.
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Davis,
Here.
Mr. Stevens,
Here.
Miss Davis,
Here.
Dr. Yeager,
Here.
Dr. Dykeman,
Here.
Mr. Worthy,
Here.
Dr. Gant,
Here.
Dr. Knox,
Here.
and Dr. Maddox.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Thomas. All right. We will move forward with our item number 2, which is to amend or adopt the agenda. The floor is open.
So moved. To adopt agenda.
Okay. Thanks, Dr. Yeager.
Second.
Okay. Was that Mr. Davis or Miss Davis? I heard two voices.
Oh,
Miss Davis.
Okay. So Dr. Yeager made the motion to accept the agenda. Miss Davis made a second. Any questions or discussion about our agenda or that motion? Okay, all in favor. Dr. Thomas, if you would take roll for all in favor of accepting the agenda.
yes, ma'am. Mr. Davis,
Yes.
Mr. Stevens,
Yes.
Miss Davis,
Yes.
Dr. Yeager,
Yes.
Dr. Dykeman,
Yes.
Mr. Worthy,
Yes.
Dr. Gant,
Yes.
Dr. Knox,
Yes.
and Dr. Maddox.
Okay. Thank you. So our agenda is listed before us. And so item number 3 is team building. Just to give some brief context, if you reflect on as we reflect on our Cognier report, there were several directives, and towards the end of that, there were also some insights. And between those, there were some suggestions that we participate in team building activities, and not only that we do it one time, but that there are ongoing efforts towards team building, and that in turn, that in hopes that would strengthen our governing capacity. And so Julie and Sam have been with us the entire year, and so they are back and have agreed to facilitate our training tonight on team building. It is a little bit strange, I think, for all of us to have to do this work virtually, but I think we will find the information helpful. And actually, I'm looking forward to it because we've done so much work so far on putting norms in place, so much cognitive work. And so this gives us an opportunity to focus on the relational aspects of governance. And so I'm going to turn the floor over to Julie and Sam. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair, Dr. Gant, members of the board, Superintendent, Dr. Thomas, and guests. Greetings to you. And indeed, we're happy to return to support your efforts. I'll begin by saying kudos to you as a governance team for staying focused on the work. And at the center of that will be the youngsters and families in the Clark County community. So for that, I commend you, especially during troubling times, perilous times, unprecedented times. But the work must continue. So thanks for what you do. I will echo what Dr. Gant mentioned first. Our intent this evening is to begin to help talk you through some conversations and assist with some conversation around synergy, team building, chemistry, all those things that come into play with the items that you are focused around. First, let me mention that, of course, you are working to become a high performing governance team. That's essential, and that's why this conversation is important. It does align with some of the items that were in your cognitive report. So multifaceted in terms of work that you are able to pinpoint this evening tonight. One of those items from the report centered on engaging the school board members in ongoing team building sessions to enhance communication, transparency, and trust. That was listed in directive form from the report. I'll also mention that in terms of overall insights from the review, it's centered on a lack of trust, seemingly a lack of trust between board members and leadership in terms of the work. And with that type of climate or environment, it makes it even more difficult, or it could hinder the progress toward you meeting your goals. Of course, that is an example of preaching to the choir. However, I am opening with that just as a reminder, because it allows you to, I use the reference of being multifaceted, it allows you to continue to document the things, the great efforts and strides that you're making along the line of moving forward, both satisfying the items that are present from the cognitive report, but also with making strides in the direction of working to become a high-performing governance team. Julie?
All right. Thank you, Sam, for setting the stage. And tonight, since this is, they're all important, but this is very tough to do virtually because we would much rather be there with you in person doing team building activities. But to make sure tonight is successful, we ask that you turn off all your distractions. So whether it's a cell phone or other applications on your computer while we're in the meeting, that would be very helpful because this can be tough work sometimes. We want you to keep your video on so everyone can see you. Tonight, we want you to be respectful and every time with each other, even if you disagree. And we're gonna make sure everyone contributes to the session. So I'm gonna be calling on you. I have a chart here of everybody's name and if you've answered questions or not. And most importantly, I don't want you to take this too seriously. I want everybody to loosen up and have some fun with your fellow teammates, if at all possible. Sam?
All right. You see various objectives in terms of what we want to begin to consider. Of course, we mentioned the notion of the importance of the relationship piece. For clear and obvious reasons here, of course, those objectives are important in terms of moving in and moving to become a high-performing governance team. But this also aligns with domains. You should be keenly familiar with those 8 domains that govern our behavior at the state level and the state board rule. And I'll pinpoint just one of those in terms of tonight. Domain 1, of course, governance structure. But as far as the standard, there's one that in domain 1, letter D, where it speaks to the leadership team demonstrating a unified approach. Unified is a key term there. And to governing the school system in order to assure effective fulfillment of roles and responsibilities. And there are several elements that align to that particular standard. There are 3 of those, and I would just draw our attention to one as we begin to move forward as it relates to governance leadership and the differentiation of professional development, your curriculum and delivery. So we're not speaking in this case of the professional development of your staff, your internal staff, but it's the governance team professional development. And written in state board rule, it refers to that and to ensure that individual board members and the team, based on your experience and your needs, that your approach to your training should be based on that. Thus, the reason we're having the conversation tonight. And so as you've had an opportunity to take a look at those objectives, I would ask you and urge you to look at some of those key buzz indicators, whether it's something that is synonymous to team chemistry, or whether it's not synonymous to ongoing communication and trust, but making tough decisions as well. So let's move forward.
All right, so here's what we have planned for tonight. we're going to do a general exercise after our opening here on just real fun exercise on what do you prefer. I'll give you a choice of one or the other, and everybody raises their hand to see what you have in common. And then we're going to send everybody out into breakup groups. And typically the breakout groups are 2 people each. And in that time, we're wanting you to spend about 10 minutes on finding things that you have in common and listing attributes of the other person. And then we have an entire questionnaire, which is only 7 questions. And we want you to spend about 30 minutes on that. And then we'll come back to the general group and share with the whole team. We'll take a break. And then after the break, we'll do a group exercise called the leadership tree. We can go back into the groups if there's time, but there might not be time since, you know, we want to hear from everybody. And hopefully we can wrap up at 8:45. Sam?
Okay. All right. So we mentioned a lot of those buzz indicators. And as we think about the work of the governance team, made up of board members, elected board members, multiple board members, and you as a total team, delegating authority to your CEO as the chief executive officer, and for her to implement your policies as well as implement your strategic plan. A lot of this is very familiar with you in terms of the language. However, as Julie alluded to tonight, is more about how you work as a team to make this happen. Good communication. And you see the reference to crucial conversations because, and I would urge you to ask yourself how much of this really applies to your work, will apply to your work. Because think about the tough conversations that you've had to have and that all governance teams have. And those conversations are raised to an exponent for us now in today's climate, and further exacerbated by what the pandemic and COVID-19 have brought to the table for us in terms of decision making. When you look at the crucial conversations, you know, of course, that relates to you, 2 or more people. Stakes are always high in those crucial conversations. Opinions will vary. You've heard us talk about many times that it takes those varying opinions to get us to progress. You may have emotions on the left, right, or in the middle. All of those things are okay to do, but there are best practices around what we should be doing when we have crucial conversations as a governance team. So think about the choices we have. And this is, I'm sure you are aware that these are the choices. Think about what the things that you faced again over the past 6 to 8 months plus. And when we get into these conversations that you have to have in decision making, whether it is as a result of a recommendation that your superintendent and administration have brought to the table that you must act on. It could be that you're in a work session and you're beginning to have these crucial conversations and you've got varying opinions about the work, but you're searching for those facts based on the expertise that's brought to the table in the research. You've got these choices that you see on the screen. And I'd like for you to think about which one really is the one that typically reflects what you do individually or as a group. And so we know what's preferred. We know that we want to face them and handle them well. We know that they must come. We know we will disagree, but we can disagree without being disagreeable.
Yeah, Sam, I would add that oftentimes in conflict, our default is to what the other person is doing wrong and not focusing on what I personally can do to change. And so tonight I want you to, throughout these exercises, to think about, am I willing to change for the betterment of the team? Do I have the capacity to change? You know, we're not expecting perfection, but a willingness to work together as a team.
So with that, we know that a part of those crucial conversations should require what you see on the screen. And some of you probably have taken a look at John Maxwell's work and some emphasis on communication. And you see here, it says that everybody talks, Everyone does communicate, but not all will connect. So I want you to kind of reflect on that in terms of what that means for you as a governance team. What are you beginning to connect more and more or incrementally as you do this work, especially with the things that you've tackled over the past few months with building your norms and doing all the things you did, a lot of work around communication. So one would hope that we're moving in that direction of having more of those connections after having those crucial conversations and honing in on, and John Maxwell refers to them as those barriers that could come into play that would interfere in the connecting. And I think that goes back to what you just heard Julie mention in terms of the work as well, knowing each other, knowing the style, but having the tough conversations and building trust because you know the style. So it's not about the person or the individual, it is about the work that you have before you.
So if you can achieve that connection with each other, ultimately mutual respect and trust, you're gonna have stronger relationships, and your community improves. Your ability to work together as a team is bar none. It increases tenfold when you can do this, and thus your influence in the community and what you can achieve for your district improves. And you ultimately improve your productivity and meet your goals. And you know what your goals are is high student achievement for all your students, because you guys have a lot riding on you. There's a lot at stake here. So we appreciate your willingness to examine your relationships. It can be tough work, but in the long run, it's very important work, and you will reap the benefits and the dividends if you are able to achieve this. Sam, any other parting comments before we talk about the agenda?
Well, I will just very quickly and briefly mention this, and we can circle back to it, because a part of your resources as a result of being a member of the association, Georgia School Boards Association, centers on the partnership with National School Boards Association as well. You might or might not know that there is a large systems contingent that we work with as an association, and that's partnered with the Georgia the Superintendents Association. And so I would urge you to take a look at that as a governance team, because you fit that description. There's optional as to whether you come to the table for those conversations or not, but those conversations take place at least quarterly from a virtual standpoint. And you're invited as a CEO, Dr. Thomas, as well as board chair and vice chair, et cetera, to be a part of those conversations. We had one this morning virtually, and we had NSBA represented there in terms of what that outlook seems to be coming forward into this legislative session with all of the moving parts with the election. And you know, the legislative piece is typically in January. And I mention that because it has a lot to do with what we just heard in terms of communicating and connecting with your peers and colleagues. So remember that as you go into some of these conversations, and let some of the resources support your needs. So we can always circle back to that, Julie.
Okay, thanks, Sam. All right, so we're going to do our first general group exercise, and I need everybody's camera on so we can see you. Antoine, are you there? Lumbi, are you there? There you are. So I'm going to ask you a series of questions, and you're going to raise your hand with which one you prefer. And these are really, really easy, okay? And they're fun. So I'll say, do you prefer this or that? And then I'll repeat it, and then you make your decision. The first one is very easy, I'm assuming. Do you prefer Bulldogs or Yellow Jackets? Bulldogs, raise your hand. Yellow Jackets. Any Tech fans? Oh, we got some Tech fans. All right.
What?
Coke versus Pepsi. So who prefers Coke? Who prefers Pepsi product? Ooh, we have a trader in Georgia, a couple traders there. Dogs or cats? Dogs. All right, cats. Aha. How about PC or Macs? PCs. Macs. Chocolate or vanilla? Chocolate. All day long. Vanilla. Awesome. All right. Do you prefer getting up early or staying up late? Getting up early. Oh, got half of you. And then staying up late. All right. Do you prefer the fall season or the spring season? Fall. All right. And spring? Lots in common there. All right. Do you prefer eating an appetizer or dessert when you go out? Appetizer? And what about dessert? Lot in common there. Whitney Houston or Beyonce? Which one do you prefer? Whitney Houston. Beyonce. Got a couple for Beyonce.
Can we vote twice?
Yeah, I know, really. What about an iPhone versus an Android? iPhone. Many, and then Android. That's great. All right. Who do you prefer? Prince or Michael Jackson? Prince. Michael Jackson. That's awesome. Do you prefer eating hamburgers or hot dogs? Hamburgers. Yep, hot dogs. Awesome. Do you prefer to drink coffee or tea? Coffee or tea? Oh, more tea drinkers than I thought. I'm not a coffee drinker, so I was surprised. Do you prefer the Beatles or the Rolling Stones? The Beatles. All right, Rolling Stones. Got a lot of Beatles fans. What about Mercedes versus BMW? Not that I drive with either. Mercedes. BMW. Pretty split. Do you prefer to have a vacation mountain house or a vacation beach house? So mountain house. Beach house. A lot of beaches there. Would you rather go back in time and meet your ancestors or into the future and meet your descendants? So go back in time to meet your ancestors. All right, go into the future and meet your descendants. We've got, are you the only one, Patricia? Wow. Would you rather win an Olympic medal or a Pulitzer Prize? Think about that one. Olympic medal, raise your hand. Pulitzer Prize. I knew that was, with this group, I knew that was going to be the case. In your work environment, do you typically work in a team setting or by yourself? In a team setting. And by yourself. Do you prefer to work in a team environment or by yourself? Who prefers a team environment? And then who prefers working by themselves? In your work environment, are you a leader of a team, like you're a supervisor, or you're an employee? So you're a supervisor. Raise your hand if you're a leader. Or an employee, you don't supervise anyone. Awesome. All right. Well, that was that in a nutshell. I just thought it'd be fun to kind of move through some things that y'all all have in common. Just it's fun. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to break out into groups. So Lisa has been great to set up groups of all of y'all, and most everyone is in a group of 2. So it's 2 of y'all are going to be paired together. If we have anybody that comes in late, if one of the new board members come in late, we'll put them with the other new board members. So we're going to group the new board members together. But let me share my screen and tell you what we're going to be doing. So we're going to do 3 activities in this breakout group, and we are going to give you 40 minutes to do it. Now, Lisa has emailed this to all of you at the start of this meeting, so if you need to refer back to it, that would be great. For the first 5 minutes, we want you to ask each other questions to figure out how much you have in common. And you can't use the fact that you're both on a board, that you live in Clark County, and that you have a family, because that's common. So try to figure out as many things that you have in common. I mean, you can be as creative as possible. You know, what superpower do you have in common? Do you all share the same superpower theme? What's your favorite holiday? What foods do you like? What do you eat for breakfast? What are some of the things on your bucket list? You can get as creative as possible. So we want y'all to just figure out how many of those things you have in common. It'd be great. You might want to get a pen and some paper and write this stuff down, because we do want you to let us know how many that you got in common together. And if you have one of the most creative things, you could share that out in the main group when we come back together. So spend about 5 minutes on that. And then the next one, spend about 5 minutes. And I want you to tell the other person 3 positive qualities or things that you admire about the other person. And we'll want you to share that back with the main group. So write those down as well. And then the bulk of the time will be spent answering these questions. And we just want you to finish the sentence. We don't want any long paragraphs or lengthy responses. And you can answer these by yourself and then discuss them all, or you could go one by one, however you 2 want to do it. So the first question is, our team would be more effective if I could blank. Whatever that means for you. Other members could help the team be more effective if they would blank. The board chair could help the team be more effective if she would blank. The superintendent could help the team be more effective if she would, whatever you say. To be truly effective, this team must always remember to blank. To be truly effective, this team must always avoid whatever your answer is. And then, as I mentioned before, your commitment to making change for the betterment of this governance team. In order to improve my relationships on this governance team, I make a commitment to do whatever it is. So, let's see. You will have access to this via email if you forget. And we're going to give you 40 minutes. So you can spend more time on the beginning or in the end, whatever you want. And Lisa, I believe they can come back into the main group when they're done, correct? But we will send you a timer, like if you've got like a minute left. I think, Lisa, you're able to do that, correct?
Yes,
Julie.
they have the ability to come back at any time, to come back to the main screen where we are.
So if you have questions for us and you need to come back to the main, and we'll be here, Sam and I'll be here, you can ask your questions and then go back in. Any questions about this?
Yeah, you're gonna put that activity back on the stream?
I will. But
Thanks.
Lisa emailed it to all of you. So
I did.
You should have an email. Let me put it back on. Is there anything in particular you want to look at, Charles?
No. But I just didn't see this before the meeting started.
Oh, she sent it right after the meeting.
Oh, okay.
So you can just check your email and make sure. Any other questions before we send you on your merry way? So it's about 6:35 and we'll give you 40 minutes. So just a little after 7. So Lisa, are you ready?
Let's try this.
Okay. Good luck and have fun.